If you would like to take your seats, then our conversation can begin. I'm delighted that you're in such good voice. I will be calling on you later to be part of this conversation. Do take your seats. Buongiorno. Good morning, everybody. How are you? We do have doctors in the house, so I should probably try that again. Buongiorno. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Excellent. No resuscitation needed. This is a conversation about the challenges for the next FAO Director-General. This is a conversation with you, for you, about you, so be very active. We have online people watching via Chatham House and also watching via the Italian Institute for International Political Studies. Good morning, social media, lovely to see you. Our hashtag, if you need it, is hashtag FAO election. You will also see back there and in your pack the free Wi-Fi. One of my favorite phrases in all of my life, free Wi-Fi, so that you can be on Twitter. You might not want to talk in this room, but you can absolutely be on Twitter and be part of that conversation if you're feeling a little bit shy. We have two candidates who are hoping to be the next FAO Director-General with us. Two are unable to join us, two are here. We're very delighted to have Geslain-Lanéelle. Good morning. And also David Kirvalidze. Good morning to you, David. You can try out your microphones actually right now. Just see how they sound. Push that little button.
Good
David,
morning.
Push that little button. Very good. Good morning.
Very good morning.
Excellent. Gerda Verburg is with us. She's the coordinator of the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement. Hello, Gerda.
Good morning, buongiorno.
And Per Pinstrup-Andersen is Professor Emeritus for Cornell University and also the Adjunct Professor at Copenhagen University. Hello there, Per.
Good morning.
Very important in the room. We are having a conversation. This is a discussion. Turn to the person on your right, say hello, give them a compliment.
We will never stop.
So many compliments in Rome today. Turn to the person on your left. Say hello if you have a person on your left. You might even have to cross the aisle. Give them a compliment. All right, this is going very well. You are in excellent voice. I am going to be calling on you for the Q&A much sooner than you expect. So I wanted to check that you are in good form. We are going to start this conversation in just a moment. Please put your phones on silent. If you haven't understood a word I've said, you probably need this, which translates South London into Italian. It's a magical device. If there's not one by you, there is one just outside, and you do have time to go and get that. Hashtag FAO election. And now let's get this conversation started. Good morning, Dr. Osman Dar. Dr. Osman Dar is going to walk up to the microphone. You're going to give him 20 seconds of applause. He will get there at the end of that 20 seconds. He is project director of the One Health Project Center on Global Health Security. Hi, Osman.
Is that working? Okay, let's
It's
try
going
that
very
again.
well. Hostesses, could you just give Osman a microphone, please? Very good.
Okay, let's. Okay. Sorry. Okay, let's just try that again. So thank you very much, everyone, for having taken the time to come out here to have this conversation with all of us. I just wanted to start by reflecting on a couple of two important events that are taking place this week. One, of course, is this FAO candidate forum that we're having here today with you. It's the first time we're having the opportunity for the wider public and Food and Agricultural Society to deal and interact with FAO prospective candidates. And the second event is this week. I think is the final season premiere for Game of Thrones, and and I think there's some interesting parallels between the two shows, between that show and what's happening here over the next couple of months in the FAO election. So there's people vying for the Iron Throne, and it'll be very interesting for all of us in wider society to see how that plays out. Femi's, of course, kindly moderating this session for us, so hopefully it'll end with less violence and nudity than a Game of Thrones episode does. But you know, we're very excited about this event, and it's really important from our perspective that this opportunity exists for candidates to meet with and engage directly with the wider food and agricultural movement and the public at large. At Chatham House, I sort of run the One Health program, which looks at the interface between human, animal, and environmental health, and we've done similar sorts of events for the WHO Director-General election in the past, which went very well. And for the kinds of issues we deal with, large-scale emerging infections, Ebola, antimicrobial resistance, we recognize that these are multi-sectoral issues that require many institutions to work together. So we're very interested in seeing how that relationship will work, how the tripartite collaboration between OIE, FAO, and WHO will work and function in the future. And so we're really interested in hearing the speakers, and we're very grateful that they've been able to join us. And hopefully this is the first conversation in many with the leadership or the prospective leadership of the FAO. So thank you again very much, and thank you again, Femi, and the experts and the candidates for having joined us.
Thanks, Osman. How I wanted to start this conversation was with you in this conversation. I wanted to talk to Catherine and David a little bit about them. Not their resumes, not their vision for FAO, because that's going to come a little bit later with Per and Gerda, but actually, who are they? If you're not from France, if you're not from Georgia, you may not know them very well as people. And if they are going to be the head of FAO, you're going to know them very well over the next couple of years. But I wanted to do that introduction right now. David, hello. What did you just write down on your notepad? Okay. Press your microphone. Share that with us one more time. The microphone's just there. That little man there looks like he's yelling. There you go. What did you write down on your notepad?
I just did the Waller Margulis.
Catherine, when you first thought about running for the head of FAO, where were you?
I was the Director-General responsible for the economic and environmental performance of enterprises in the agriculture, forestry and development rural sector at the Ministry of Agriculture in France.
Was it a decision that was easy to make? Did you wrestle over many years about it? How did that decision happen for you?
No, it was not a decision that I had prepared for a long time, but obviously because it's such a huge challenge, an important organization with an important role for food security, for our livelihood, for our future. Of course, I thought very thoroughly about it, and I prepared myself. That's why also I declared myself early in July last year, although the submission period for the FAO started only on the 1st of December.
David, that moment where you thought, I am ready to lead the FAO, when was that?
That was over the glass of wine enjoyed with my friends.
I feel I should ask Catherine that question again. I feel I got the official answer, not the real one.
No, I confirm my answer.
The process for running for FAO DG, how would you describe it to someone who was out of the UN system, who had no idea what it was like? What is the process of going through that, Catherine?
I would do it simply, saying that you cannot apply yourself. You need to be presented by your country. So my candidacy was presented by France. I had the support of the government and the president of the French Republic. Then, because I'm coming from that region, I decided to seek the support of the European Union, and that's what I had on the 15th of October, where I've got the support of the European Union and its 28 member states. That's important for me as a starting point. Then you submit formally your candidacy, so that was between the 1st of December and the end of February. Yesterday, we had a hearing for the 4 candidates, because as you indicated, we are 4 candidates, with a Q&A session, 90 minutes, where we presented our project. And then the election will happen on the 22nd and 23rd of June. The process is not fully transparent, I would say. So thank you very much for organizing this session. I think it's very important. I would have loved also to have a webcast session of the hearing yesterday that was proposed by the FAO, but unfortunately it didn't happen. And I think it's important because the challenges that we have ahead are important. And as you say, it's not just about a particular sector which is concerned, it's about our life, our food, our future. So that's quite important to have dialogue and exchange with all the key stakeholders, the civil society, and ultimately with the general public.
David, what best prepares you from all of your experience, personal or professional, for going on this journey, this campaign that you're on?
I can tell you, frankly and openly, that was definitely not my dream to do that, especially when I was a child. Every child has a dream, and we are thinking about something great in our life, and despite the fact that I'm almost genetically agriculturist, so both my parents being my professors and teachers in family and university also, I had a totally different dream. I wanted to be a football player, and I did play football for like 15 years until I got to Soviet army, and next was surgery in my leg, and I was just supposed to just drop it. You also see that when people are speaking about my qualifications, so it's that I have seen agriculture from all different angles, and that's kind of something. But you know what? That's not because of nice life that we had in my part of the world. And this one is helping me to go through this path now and just knowing agriculture and seeing it almost from every possible corner and being a direct part of this. But my point is that why I decided to do it, because I got realized, and it's not only now, that we all, especially those who are helping others, are falling way behind just to do it. And all these nice meetings and huge conferences to setting down the data for X Millennium Goals or SDG goals. If it goes like this, I expect another meeting in 2028 or 2029 to have a goal set for 2045 next and say that we're going to achieve there. So I've been through this process. I can tell you that I don't know hunger from the distance. I spent few years being hungry, lined up on the bread line for a day, every day, but my life was like this, starting at 4 a.m. and ending up by 10 a.m. And the bread actually we've been getting was not good even to feed the cattle. And I was a PhD by that time. I was lecturing students at university. That's a job that I like. I'm a soil scientist by background. I love it, but I was paid $1 a month, just one. So that drew me to farm. I started farming because there have been different paths to choose. Go and leave the country or start robbing or becoming gangsters that many fellows did by that time, or do something other that brings you back to the food. I did it. I started. I fed not only my family, but my community, and that taught me a very good lesson. Also, that taught me a lesson when you ask for something, how those who are supposed to support you should behave. I've seen that from both sides, being a recipient the last 10 years, acting on the side of donor, and that experience that I'm getting from the, I can imagine myself in the shoes of the recipient. It doesn't matter, it's a farmer, it is fisherman, or anybody who is asking. I think that helps me to do this. Thank you.
So we have two microphones, one here and one here. I didn't want to have all of that conversation myself about the candidate's background. There's a lot more that you can talk about. Later on in the program, you can talk about their vision for FAO and more detailed questions about this. But this little section is, who are they? Put your hands up. What questions do you have? Take the microphone over there to that gentleman just there. Thank you so much. Good morning, sir. What have I not asked? It's a much smarter question than the one I just had. Thank you for volunteering. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. My name is Philipp Schulte. I'm from Germany. I also attended yesterday's hearings, so thank you very much to both of you. What I just considered is that there's a high number of people starving every day, and I was like asking myself, what are you going to do to end this till 2030? Thank you.
Catherine, you start.
So I thought we were.
This is just a brief response, and then we go to David, and then we continue.
So during my campaign, where I have met with 150 high-level representative of countries, as well as stakeholders, farmers, fishermen, food companies, digital stakeholders, civil society, I was struck by the fact that everybody expressed a sense of urgency for action. So I think that we need to step up our efforts. Although we've been able, over the last 5 decades, to multiply by 3 the food production, we are not there yet. Hunger is on the rise again. We have also malnutrition at a very high level, 2 billion people suffering from malnutrition. And then we have this epidemic of obesity and overweight. So we need to take bold action. So I want to give a new impetus to the FAO and take action. So build and consolidate what is good when it comes to, in particular, concrete action, technical cooperation, which is interesting to showcase that we have the solution, because I am convinced that we have the solution, but see how through investment, public and private investment, we can scale up our efforts. So this is what I will present in the next hour.
David, go ahead. Do you remember the question?
Thank you for this. I can make it short. We'll tell you a little story, but very quick. It's almost like a joke. So there was a saying during Soviet time. What happens when fish disappears from the shelf? In Soviet Union and Japan, just to compare. And that was saying that what happens in Soviet Union, there is a first meeting on the regional level, next another meeting on the central level, next another meeting in Moscow, next a big meeting over there. What happens in Japan? They just take a boat and go to fish. That's a difference. Quick action is something that we need to make in this. Slowness, FAO is just instrument. FAO is an instrument, not to do it, but to facilitate. This is a big difference. We should not feel it like it's their job and you are watching. And I really agree with Geslain that quick action, but not quick action in general, quick action in particular, and results-oriented monitoring, where you are really demanding sustainability and the results, tangible results from an activity. This is what we're going to do. And this is not happening.
Tell me about your leadership style, Catherine.
Oh, sorry. Maybe others will be better in describing my leadership style. What I want to say here is that I have led a large and complex organization, both at national and European level. In France, I was responsible for the Directorate-General for Food, which is competent on food safety, animal health, and plant health, an organization with over 4,500 staff members, both in Paris headquarters and in regions. I have also led the Director-General responsible for the performance of economic and environmental enterprises. I have been elected I was elected as Executive Director of the European Food Safety, a European organization which is responsible for risk assessment. And my key features are I like mobilizing teams around a project, a shared vision. I have transformed the organization where I have worked and get everybody on board. So I like mobilizing and getting everybody on board. I'm very result-based oriented. I like to communicate, to convince, to mobilize, and I like to deliver result. And I enjoy working with the teams for collective success.
David?
I told you I like to play football. I'm a team player. I like to give a pass, but I like to receive the pass also back. And I'm always captain there, so I lead, but I am always within the team. And there is one more thing. There could be a high-tech development in technologies. For me, the basic value is a human factor. Human factor is something on top of the agenda, and that's why we've been successful in many different occasions, being in the ministry or now the projects we are running in my company. There is only one thing that I'm proud there, that everybody who comes in the office every morning, they keep smiling, and they smile because they're happy to come there. Next, they all deliver, so this is how I do it stuff.
One more question, and that one is going to be right up that aisle. Keep going. If you look on your left-hand side, there's a lady in a sort of red striped sweater with blonde hair, turning to her friend going, I don't think that's me. There you go. There you go. Wonderful. Thank you very much for contributing to our conversation. Just remembering that this is a biographical little section. We're just about to wrap it up. What would you like to know about the candidates that you don't already know before we get into the more technical aspect of our discussion today?
I didn't think actually already about the question, so let's see.
Their best subject at school, I think you said.
No.
Turn right to the back. Pass your microphone on, just behind you. There you go. We'll come back to you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Gabriela. I'm a master's student from Brazil. I wanted to ask a question to Ms. Catherine, but also to Mr. David. As the first female candidate for Director-General at FAO since its creation 70 years ago, how do you feel and see the representation of women in high positions inside the organization? And was it challenging for you as a woman to pursue your career in this area? And also, how do you plan on broadening this question and to propose more inclusion of women in the organization? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yes, as you are saying, I am the first female candidate since the creation of this organization 70 years ago, which I find very surprising because we know the important role that women have in food systems. They are all over the place, in the field, in the shops, in the factories where we produce food. So I was very surprised that there has never been a female candidate. And I shall say that I am proud to represent them in a way. Of course, I will pay a particular attention to them in the context of my mandate if I am elected, to make sure that in the organization, of course, but also in the food systems, we make their life more easy, better access to resources, to the forums of decision, and so on. When it comes to your question on my career, I think, has it been easy always as a woman? Certainly not. I must say that I have been very lucky. I have found many people, including men, who trusted me so that I could access to this important position that I've had. But I think for us women, it's always a bit more difficult, although we are gradually making progress. And I think it would be a great signal that we would have the next Director General as a female. This would be great for women.
David, how do you feel about that?
I feel perfect. Excellent. It's a very familiar environment for me. So when I joined university and started my education, so I was lucky to be in a group of 29 students, 27 girls and 2 boys. And I can tell you that was the best time in my life. I'm privileged to have a chance to sit here next to my colleague and candidate to this position, especially that she is a woman. I appreciate this, and I would be very glad to see that FAO is run by best professional, and also it could be first time by ladies. Thank you very much.
So we're going to move on in our program. Per is going to set the scene for some of the big issues that the next FAO DG will have to take on. One thing I want to tell you about Per is that he dropped out of school, 7th grade, and he was a farm worker. He did mixed farming, and now he's a professor emeritus for at least one major university, and then an adjunct professor at another one. So he is a success story, walking right up to the mic, and he certainly knows his stuff. Per, we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Yes, being a farm worker didn't permit me to. How about that? Is that better? Being a farm worker didn't permit me to save enough money to buy a farm, so I decided I better try to get into the university, which is what I did. I want to thank Chatham House for including me in this very, very important initiative. I hope that these kinds of initiatives will now be the routine every time an international organization is filling its leadership positions. I think it's very, very important to have this kind of debate. During the last few minutes, I'm going to highlight some of the challenges and issues that I believe the new Director General of FAO is going to be faced with, is going to be confronting. But let me, before I get to the challenges, which of course are things that need to be done, let me just give you some positive news. Today, more people are having access to enough calories to meet the dietary energy needs than ever before. And there are more non-poor people in the world than ever before. We tend to forget that because we're so focused on what needs to be done, and that's good. That is the kind of focus we need to have. But let's not forget that we have actually made tremendous progress. As the world population has grown, the number of hungry people has not grown, which of course is the good news. Now, here are some of the challenges that we have to deal with. Because of course it's not good enough that 800 million people or so go to bed hungry. We have a much bigger problem in terms of number of people affected, and that is probably between 25 and 35% of the world population do not eat a healthy diet. They are short on micronutrients of some kind. It can be some minerals like iron. It can be vitamins of vitamin A and so on. Those deficiencies cause poor health and low productivity. The other part of the unhealthy diet, of course, is that so many people and a large increasing number of people are overeating, resulting in overweight, obesity, and all of the associated chronic diseases. We are eating the wrong things, which causes diabetes and a number of chronic diseases. So we got quite a challenge to try to match the food system with our health and productivity objectives. The sad news is that with past and current trends, the world is not going to achieve the sustainable development goals related to food and nutrition. We need to bend that curve. We need to change that trend, and we need to do it very, very soon. There are other trends that we need to change. The trend of continued deterioration of natural resources, and I'm thinking here of water, biodiversity, and land. We talk a lot about climate change, we meaning the world. The world, there's a lot of debate about climate change, not very much action. This is another thing that FAO is going to be confronted with, and hopefully in the questions and answers later we can talk about what exactly is it that FAO should be doing, and how can FAO do this with other organizations. And of course we shouldn't forget that there are still a very large number of hungry and poor people, both in rural and urban areas. And let's not forget the urban poor, because that number is going up very, very fast. Now, we are here to hear what the candidates are going to do about all of these things and many other challenges that they may want to face. So I'm not going to talk about what FAO should do, but I am going to talk about a few of the overarching action points that I think should be taken into account as the new Director-General takes over. First, the tremendous importance of research and innovation in solving these problems. No, if you are against modern science, you are doing damage to future generations. We need to extract as much as we can from science, from innovation, from new ideas, from thinking outside the box, and we shouldn't be afraid of new technology. Yes, we should test it, of course we should, but we shouldn't just say no. Secondly, we need behavioral changes at the various levels in the food system, all the way from the individual that can change his or her diet, to the households, to the trading system, the policy makers, the international organizations, and so on. We need behavioral changes, and we need better leadership and better management at all of these levels as well. And of course, we need a more even access to resources, because it doesn't do any good to tell a poor person to change his or her behavior if the resources are not there to do that. So we have to worry about the poverty aspect, the availability of resources. Another point that I think is very important to take into account here is the complexity of these challenges, and therefore the need for comprehensive solutions. What does that mean to FAO? FAO can't do everything. Should FAO enter into more effective, more successful collaboration with other organizations? Or how do we deal with that complexity without kind of building walls around each organization, often referred to as silos? The Sustainable Development Goals are also very comprehensive, again requiring collaboration across sectors, across organizations, in order to be successful. So clearly, FAO and other international organizations need to reach beyond their own limits and mandates to make sure that we get a comprehensive and effective solution to these challenges and problems. So with that in mind, and I think my few minutes are close to being up, I want to suggest that FAO should focus on at least the following three overriding goals. First, improved human and environmental health. Human and environmental health. Second, reduce poverty, alleviate poverty. And third, to mitigate and help adaptation to to climate change. Now, that's not necessarily the order of importance, but those are the three overriding goals that it seems to me that FAO should contribute to. And it cannot do it alone. It has to do it together with other organizations and other groups that are working in the same area. And with that, Femi, I thank you for the attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Per. Gerda is also from a family of farmers. She can teach you skills that you never knew you needed to know. You also need to know that she has a historied experience and working in Rome with lots of the food agencies. But she wants us to rethink a food strategy, rethinking how we think about the food agenda. And if there's anyone who can help us rethink it, it's Gerda. Gerda, go and stand at the podium. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited. I'm excited to see all of you. Many colleagues, many good friends, and I have great memories here in Rome. But I'm also excited to have 2 out of the 4 Director-General FAO candidates, your brave people, because this is the first time. And I'm also very, very happy that Chatham House and other partners took the initiative to organize this today and decided to invite me to also play a little bit a role here. I'd like to focus on 5 issues that I think are of crucial importance. The title of today's conversation is Beyond Food Security. And indeed, Per has already pointed at it. It is time to rethink and to redesign agriculture into the start of a food system. Food that is produced through fisheries, through forestry, through agriculture, through whatever kind of food production, as the start of a food value chain that is healthy and nutritious and is able to reach consumers without any food loss or any food waste. So the food systems need to deal with health of food, with nutrition of food, needs to deal with climate challenges, not only the adaptation but also the mitigation, and at the same time there is an opportunity to increase productivity, and food systems that are able to adopt innovative approaches. And I'm not talking about high technology, I'm also talking about simple technology that is available in the remote rural area and that is also available to women. Because let's not forget, women are in many countries the main food producer, and women are still the ones who have least access. Access to, for instance, cell phones or communication, technology or financial support or whatever kind of support you have. So this is the first topic. Beyond food security towards climate adaptive or climate mitigating, towards nutritious food production and towards a food system that can also create jobs for young people and preventing them for the need to leave their countries to make a better living. The second point is that I think it is about time to address the gap that is there in understanding hunger and nutrition. What is the difference between ending hunger or zero hunger and ending malnutrition? And I think Per has pointed at it, but I think the FAO is the best placed organization with the best skilled people to bridge this. The future of food is not in the calories. Of course, you need to eat enough, but it's in the quality, it's in the diversity. It is indeed preventing children from being stunted, being too small for their age, etc., but also being stunted in their cognitive development. And I'm traveling as Scaling Up Nutrition Movement. I'm visiting many countries. And you know what? I also have the conversation with many ministers of agriculture. And they understand what it means to produce enough calories. But they also have in mind that they need to produce for the GDP, for the economy, for export, for instance. Well, they can do better, because once they understand that if you invest in healthy people, but also in smart people, in making it possible for people to fully develop their cognitive talents and their cognitive opportunities, that these people will be more healthy, that these kids will make smarter students at school, and that they will be more productive in the economy, sometimes up to 10 percent points more growth in the economy. So I think it is the FAO that needs to lead on bridging this gap and making also ministers of agriculture and whole governments, including parliaments, understand the need to go for healthy diets and food systems that are producing this. It's also part of the Sustainable Development Goals, and the FAO is full part of it, not only in Sustainable Goal number 2, but Sustainable Development Goal number 2 out of 17 is an excellent starting point. Never underestimate the connection with the others. For instance, health, about healthy diets. For instance, education. For instance, alleviating poverty. If you end hunger and malnutrition, you're also very likely to end poverty, because people are more productive, can live their own lives, and can make more income. So FAO needs to be more visible, more active and interactive, starting from SDG 2, but reaching out and working with all the other Sustainable Development Goals. And I think this should be also visible in the way FAO is leading the Decade of Action on Nutrition. Quite ambitious, together with WHO. You're the host of, FAO is the host organization of SDG, the Decade of Action on Nutrition, how to make this happen and how to be active in this way. Third point is multi-stakeholder approach. And here in Rome is one of the millennials, the Committee on World Food Security, that is the embodying of the way forward. It is before the Sustainable Development Goals were agreed upon, it is the multi-stakeholder approach towards food security and nutrition. And right now the chair is here, many active members are here. I've seen the private sector here, I'm sure civil society is here, people from the Secretariat are here, but all of you are part of the Committee on World Food Security. And right now, I'm looking into the eyes of the current chair. It's sometimes hard to get the right attention of the Rome-based agencies, though they are supporting, but also the incorporation at country level. And I think the new Director-General of FAO could play a tremendous role in lifting up this multi-stakeholder approach, not only at the global level, but to implement it at country level. So I think the new Director-General should set an example, should lead the exercise of embodying the collaboration with the multi-stakeholders. 4 and 5th, there's a lot of prioritization here. Per has already an agenda. I'm putting something on the plate of the new Director-General of FAO. But if you want to prioritize, you also need to deprioritize. What would be the topics, the issues to deprioritize? I'm curious to hear from these two heroes, Catherine and David. And finally, FAO needs to be more visible and more active at country level, supporting governments, making sure that governments are leading. I need to finish because somebody is yearning here. So apparently I'm starting to be boring. Well, it's about time to stop. Well, it happens, eh? It's Friday at the same time. But FAO needs to be visible at country level and interactive with other UN organizations, because that's also part of the new way of working together. Governments are in the lead to implement the Sustainable Development Goals, and the UN needs to act as one to really interact with others and interact with the government to encourage, push, but also to be there. Not to do everything themselves, but to facilitate and to make it happen and to make sure that the FAO is leading the way beyond food security, leaving no one behind. Thank you so much.
So if you're following this online, I am seeing, and we are seeing, your hashtag FAO election questions. We are going to roll them into the conversation after you've heard more from the candidates. David, we're going to give you the microphone. You have some time to talk to the audience about what you would like to do as FAO DG, given the opportunity. You can do it here. Thanks, David.
I try to make a few notes. And normally in such kind of environment, people always try to agree. Yeah, it is. I don't agree. I don't agree with this. And I tell you why. Because it's not a way when everything mentioned here, it's top important. But again, when you're talking to hungry people, I don't want to make it tired telling my story. That when I was hungry, I was ready to eat everything. I didn't care about it, full with nutrition or not with nutrition. When you see hungry people, and I've seen them in many countries, it's Africa, Asia, worldwide, and I've seen donors sometimes distributing to them as a food, and I did not name donor or did not name the country, distributing food for cattle, and there was a line on this. You know why? Everybody knows how to tastily appreciate food. That's one thing. When you're hungry, you don't care about that. When you are a step forward, we're thinking about diet. How many of you enjoy steak with potatoes? Perfect, right? I do also. So if you read science, they say don't do it. Don't mix it up. Go and take a steak and take something like vegetables. I don't like it. Oh, and this is very important one, but as a first step, what I'm thinking here, why FAO matters? Why? Because there is a hunger, right? There is a hunger, 800 million, bit more people, and FAO volunteers, they said that it's us, we're gonna do it, so we're gonna make everything set, and they're doing nothing. Who can solve the problem of the hunger? It's my question also to you. I can tell you what I think. Nobody can solve hunger instead of myself. If I'm not working, nobody else is working instead of me. If I am working, somebody can tell me, yes, I can help you. And if somebody offers me to work instead of me to feed me, there is something wrong there. Definitely something wrong. We should not expect anything good out of this. Of course, there are some few exceptions when it's impossible to produce food, where there is natural calamity or military or armed conflict. They seize temporary people from the production means. And that, for that, like it was perfectly mentioned here, we are super partner in this city, so it's named WFPs. And they can provide a hand immediately and deliver the food. What about the role of FAO? FAO should restore the livelihoods. They need to bring people back to production. And who is the main actor there? This is the private sector. Entire my life, I believe that private sector drives and leads. Every good decision is coming from private sector. They are business-oriented, and they are leaders. They always think about beyond. The role of the government is just to make sure that right regulations are in a place and to also make sure that it goes in a fair and right way according to the rule of the law. What does it mean? That means that our vision to FAO in future, it says the opportunity organization. That creates opportunity for everyone. That is not giving a food out, but gives you opportunity to work and strive with new technologies, where can you create better environment for the investment to the private, to the rural development and to agriculture, to fishery, to forestry, where science is so advanced when consumers, we are forgetting about consumers, when consumers are making right decision based on awareness and science, when they know, because this is a very powerful tool when I know how to make a decision. This is about empowering digital agriculture, supporting climate change. I would not agree anymore about role of the environment. And environment is the basics. We are dealing as the agriculturists to the soil, right? We all agree that everything in the world, in the nature, has its function. And nothing exists without functions. That's a universal law. If there is no function, that's going to disappear from the earth. We all should agree, despite our vision, how the life was created in the universe, that soil was first and humans appeared later. What does it mean? If basic function of soil is to feed us, that means something wrong. There was no human, and elephants were not plowing theirs. Soil was there. So soil's basic role is to support life on the earth. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Later on, the nomadic man became a farmer. And they just explore this great possibility. It's a fertility of soil that gives us chance to grow something there and feed ourselves better, to be settled as different civilization was boosted. So my point is that talking about food security, my point is that about talking zero hunger, new technologies, we should never forget about the environment. That I'm 100% online. You know why? We have two ways to achieve food security. One, we do it now in responsible ways that we are killing the options for next generation. Another one is we can achieve food security today with a right approach and with, I like this word, sustainable use of nature resources. That gives my children, your children, and their children equal, if not more opportunities, like it was correctly mentioned, extracting from this science and new technologies to grow better and more, to enjoy same environment. And I'm close to end up. This is about production. I made it clear. It's opportunity organizations that the FAO creates opportunities for everyone. Private sector drives and leads, and it means farmers, fishermen, they produce. But food security is not only about production. It's about access to the food. What is the best way for access? This is trade. We love this word, free trade. And I'm coming from this small nation, small country. I witnessed many times that free trade is not a free trade when you're dealing with some kind of different big powers. It's not a free trade. Fortunately or unfortunately, being Minister of Agriculture, for some reason I went to participate in WTO meetings. If you ever been there, you know what does it mean. People who pretend that they love, respect each other, they're forgetting that there. And it goes like just disaster. So, we gained independence and next started to sign free agreements with the people. And we did not know. Our country had no experience. We signed this free agreement, and next, most probably some corrupt bureaucrats, they even didn't read this. Next you're reading and you see that you have free agreement with X country, you have zero on everything, that they are taxing your product to 150%. And you agreed, and it's gone. It's not a way of going, because the problem of small farmers worldwide, in Africa, Asia, Latin America, in Europe, is access to the market. As soon as they can get to the market, they are getting money. For this, we need a trade. But I would add one thing, not a free trade, but free and fair trade. Now, unfortunately, free trade is not only enough. We should say free and fair trades. And also back to FAO's role. People are debating, do we need the standards or do we not need the standards? Here is the standards. Without standards, you cannot trade. That's what I wanted to say here, and I would be more than glad to answer your questions. Thank you.
Catherine, we'd love to hear from you.
Good morning, and thank you for organizing this, this event. So we've heard, and I of course concur with this, that we have a roadmap, which is the Agenda 2030 for sustainable development. This is our roadmap, and for the FAO it's clear that this is SDG 2, as it was mentioned by Gerda, but not only SDG 2. I think that when you read, and I'm sure, I trust you're familiar with this agenda, if you read this roadmap, you can see that FAO has a role to play with all SDG. There is no SDG where you cannot find a role to play. I have two main objectives to help us to deliver this agenda. My first objective is to have food systems which are more productive, because we will need to increase our food production to feed a growing population. So we need to have more productive food systems, while at the same time these food systems need to be more sustainable, meaning ensuring that they are more protective, and I would even say further that they should help us to regenerate our natural resources and be resistant to climate change. We need also food systems which are more efficient, and here I'm thinking in particular to the fact that we should significantly reduce losses and waste. We have, today we are producing 30% of the food that we produce is either lost or finished as a waste, which obviously is not efficient. My second objective is to develop the value chain in rural areas and create agri-food chains, develop food processing, food retail, services linked to agriculture, fisheries, forestry, aquaculture, in order to create jobs in rural area, to eradicate poverty. Most of the poor are living in rural areas. I do not undermine the poverty that exists in urban areas, but most of the poor are living in rural areas. And most of the poor are farmers and fishermen and women. So if we want to help these farmers and fishermen to access the market, if we want also the young people that will arrive on the market to find a job in the next 10 to 15 years, to have a decent future, we need to create jobs in rural areas. And I'm convinced that agriculture, fisheries, processing food, services linked to these sectors can give us opportunities to create jobs in rural areas and therefore to eradicate poverty. How can the FAO help us to deliver this? First of all, I think that the FAO needs to help us to put agriculture, fisheries, forestry, aquaculture back at the top of the political agendas. Climate change, biodiversity, migration are making the headlines. I'm not saying that these subjects are important. They are, of course, important, as I mentioned, that, and they have also linked with agriculture, fisheries, and forestry. But I think we need to make sure that we remind ourselves at all levels, national, regional, and international levels, that these sectors are important for our future. They are our future. They are our food. And if we play it well, they can help us to deliver more protected natural resources, a better climate, more prosperity, more peace. So that's important that we put them back at the top of political agenda. But of course, it's not just enough to put them back at the on the political agenda. I think we need also to put the key stakeholders, those who are delivering day in, day out our food, at the center of the action, the policies, the activities of the FAO. I'm here thinking, of course, I'm thinking about the farmers, the fishermen and women, the food companies, the private sector in general, the civil society. They are key, you are key to help us to deliver this agenda, because it is not just the public sector that will deliver the transformation of our food systems. This is the farmers, the fishermen and women, and the private sector that will deliver this. And as it was said, the FAO cannot do everything, but there is something that the FAO can do and can do better, is to play a role as a convener, as a mobilizer of all these key stakeholders so that we deliver success. Thirdly, I'd like to say that we need this organization to remain in all its activity, in everything it does, science-based and evidence-based, and to help us also to continue to provide us with innovative and science-based solutions. That's very important. It was being said that we need more science, we need more innovation if we don't want to make mistakes. We already have a lot of solutions, but for sure we will need more solutions. And as it was said by Gerda, it's not necessarily everything complex innovation, but we need obviously to have more science, more research, more innovation. And I think the FAO here has a role to play and need to forge more partnership with the scientific community, to value the expertise that exists all over the world, in every part of the world, not only in the north, but also in the south, and help us also to give access, to facilitate the access to innovation, to all the key players. And here I think that FAO should also make its own digital revolution using digitalization to help everybody to access the fantastic and the unparalleled knowledge and expertise that this organization has accumulated over the last 70 years. Then I think we need more cooperation. More cooperation between countries, more South-South cooperation, more South-North cooperation, more triangular cooperation, to leverage our knowledge, our resources. We need also more cooperation between the FAO and regional and international organizations. Some of them have been mentioned. When it comes to One Health, which is a very important priority, we need more cooperation between the FAO and the World Health Organization, with OIE. We need also more cooperation between the UN agency, between the FAO and the United Nations Programme for Development, the one for environment, the High Commissariat for Refugees, the International Organization for Migration, the World Food Programme, because we need, as soon as we have delivered, the World Food Programme has helped us to deliver food aid, we need to start thinking and designing how we are going to support the population so that they can start again to produce their own food. So more cooperation between the Rome-based agency, the IFAD, the World Food Programme, and in general with international and regional organizations. We need also, through this cooperation, through the work with stakeholders, but also through the work with investors, both public and private investors, we need to leverage the resources of this organization. I've heard a lot of questions yesterday about, how are you going to do all these things that, all the requests that the member governments are asking you with a flat budget, It's true to say that the organization has resources, but it's true to say also that if it works well, if it works properly, if it cooperates, if it creates synergy, if it leverages resources, then it can be very powerful. And here, in order to create jobs in rural areas, I think we need to scale up the positive impact of the technical cooperation program and the development action that this organization has developed over the last decades. And that's something that I want to step up. So to conclude, because I understand that the time is over, I'd like to give a new impetus to this organization. I want to take action. I want an FAO which is more responsive, more open, more transparent, more accountable, more cooperative, an engine for cooperation, synergy, and leveraging the resources so that it helps us to deliver sustainable food for all, as well as help us to create jobs in rural areas. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Gerda, what would you like to ask the candidates? You have 10 minutes to spend together. How are you going to do that?
Thank you very much. Let's give it a try. But let my first conclusion be there is something to choose here, because two candidates, both very motivated, but quite a different approach, I would say. My first question has to do with the in-country requests. I just returned from Peru, and before Peru I visited Costa Rica. What you see there is that agricultural production is not that bad, and that hunger is not the biggest problem. What is the biggest problem in these two countries? In Peru, it is anemia. It is anemia, and it's in children, and there is it's malnutrition. Yeah, it's part of malnutrition. I don't know why this collapsed, but it's telling you I think it's a practical sign that we are going beyond food security here, which is good, by the way. So thank you for organizing this. And secondly, there is the big challenge of obesity and related diseases. And FAO is invited by the Minister of Agriculture to advise to rethink the food system and make agriculture part of the solution, instead of focusing only to produce crops for export and for the economy. The FAO country representative is calling upon Rome and asking, what is your advice? Can I move on to advise the government, or what should I do? What would be your answer? Catherine?
Very important what you said about the fact that although we have common challenges, common objectives, this is a roadmap of the Agenda 2030, it's clear that there are different realities, different needs, and different expectations in the countries. You quoted the example of Peru. I could say that I've discussed with people from the Pacific, and they are saying we have two main priorities, which is how are we going to adapt to climate change, and how are we going to fight against obesity and overweight. I was also in Addis Abeba, and they said here what we need is to increase significantly the productivity of our smallholders, because we don't produce enough food, although at the same time we need to look at what we produce, because as you say, we need to produce what population needs. So I think that's where the FAO needs to make sure that it works, it delivers fit-for-purpose solution, adapted to the local context, to the needs of the countries, and work with the stakeholders and the local players and with the governments. So starting with the needs of the countries. And I think that's where also the fact that this organization has a presence is in over 130 countries is very essential. Some people are saying it's very costly. Indeed, maybe it's costly, but this is also a way to ensure that you are close to the countries, to the key stakeholders, and then you are in a position to deliver not one-size-fits-all solution, but a fit-for-purpose solution, recommendation, and options.
Thank you very much, Davit. Because I'm requested to ask the same question to both candidates.
Just to make sure I got it properly, so there is a problem in X country like anemia and obesity. Yeah. And government asked FAO country rep to do something with that.
No, to support the government in rethinking agriculture towards the start of a food value chain that is healthy, sustainable.
And he is coming...
and he's asking headquarters because headquarters, yes.
Well, I don't think so that he should continue his job there, because he's not supposed to ask headquarters. He's supposed to come there and bring a solution, at least few alternatives. That's why he's a country rep there. If he cannot do it, he must leave and go home. Second is that that's a fact. You're talking about decentralization. This is a decentralization. They should make a decision. For what they are they're getting wages triple times than local people there. First, go to the local medical hospital and talk to the doctors there. Check what's the problem with your people, why they are diseased. And next, bring a few. He does not need to fly to Rome and save on the travel. Just put an email right there. Just send there and say, listen, here is a problem, and I need to make a solution. I suggest X, Y, Z, and you make a choice. This is how I'm going to work. And what I'm going to suggest, next I probably call Geneva and speak to my colleagues also there if this suggestion from agriculturists is fitting ideas with medicals. And we proceed further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Loud and clear. Second question is on collaboration with the different stakeholders. And I gave the example of the Committee on World Food Security. That's an extreme important example within the Rome-based agencies, but I also want to hear what with the stakeholders outside the Rome-based agency. How would you approach them to come in and contribute to policy development and policy implementation or implementation at country level? Let me start with Davit.
Thank you. It's not only Rome-based, right?
It's not only Rome-based, but I want you to start to focus on here, because here
I will
will be
focus
your
on here.
base.
It's my pleasure to focus on all of them here. They are all together. It's easy to visit all of them in one shot. And their partnership and cooperation, it's very much possible to be in a synergy and to strengthen each other. So Lynn mentioned, and I also said, WFP is an emergency, so nobody is happy when WFP knocks on the door, so that means something is wrong in your countries. As soon as they're living out, so you're gonna celebrate that. After that, it's a restoring a livelihood if you are in the right path and making through private sector. But to make private sector operational, we need equipped and properly empowered government. In this case, our partner is Ministers of Agriculture with the right policy in the place and with the right environment, regulations, institutions, all there. So FAO helps in this. We went through this. I'm telling not just theories I've seen from some of the fancy rooms, but I did it myself. So we had a big problem. So we got, FAO was helpful. To be honest, by that time, it was very helpful. We put all donors around the table, and it was in discussion. And when it goes to the real investment in your country, when you need to really put money in irrigation, in drainage, in value chain development, here is a portion of loan we are talking that it's not FAO's capacity anymore. So here is an IFAD, and IFAD has a very good guideline from FAO in terms of their produced papers, where, how, and why should they invest it. Of course, with the best interest of the government. I mean, government who is receiving this money. And this is not enough. I always stress also the role of the bilateral donors together with FAO, because even IFAD here, it's not capable to fund everything. It's not enough. So there is a problem always in the budget. We all have a problem with budget everywhere, in our families, in our jobs, everywhere. It's not ever enough always. So bilateral assistance, clearly targeted. Tell you, because there is more resources available if we spend it effectively to reach tremendous success. But one should be really knowledgeable and brave in recipient country to make donors clearly define coordination and to act them clearly, because there are some topics they want to pick up. Everybody jumps in. And there are some topics that are more difficult, and they don't want to touch it. So that to be according the country strategy, and the role of FAO here to help this particular country with coordination on this. And next, things are moving. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I was wondering about my own question because you ended up to talk about donors. And I started with asking the multi-stakeholder approach. But
we're all donors.
Yeah, we're all donors. We're all contributing, you mean. Very good. Catherine, how would you work with multi-stakeholder, different stakeholders, for instance, like they are here in Rome, supported by 3 organizations, but they need to get more support to be more visible and active, like the Committee on World Food Security?
So yes, indeed, one of my priority will be to work with stakeholders at all levels, at country level, locally, but also in the context of the Committee on Food Security, as you mentioned. So we should use all the tools that we have. Maybe let me say a couple of words about this Committee on Food Security, which is rather, as far as I am aware, rather unique in a United Nations organization where you have together the representative of the member countries as well as all the key stakeholders of the food chain. So something quite interesting. Also, there are other committees and commissions at the FAO where you have that. As far as I am aware, you have the regional commission for fisheries, where you have also the participation of representative of fishermen, and I find that very interesting. So that's rather unique. That's also a committee where you have to, working together, the Roman-based agency. During my campaign, I've heard a lot about the cooperation that we need to foster between these 3 Roman-based agencies. So that's a place where they are obviously working together and cooperating, so it's interesting. And as far as I can see also, and I've heard that during my campaign, in particular from farmers, they have produced some interesting and useful deliverables. Here, let me mention 2 that I find interesting. One is related to the voluntary guidance on land tenure, which is very important for our farmers. And also the report on right to food, which is an important deliverable. Then maybe we need to think how we can make this committee, this platform, more interactive. They are producing a lot of reports. I'm not so fond of thousands of reports. What we need is action. So can we find ways to have more interaction, more dialogue, being more proactive? Can we also find ways to use better the scientific expertise of the high-level panel of experts, which is supporting the work of the CFS? There is something that struck me, and here I'm sharing with you my thoughts and my reflection. I don't have a final view on this, and I will certainly have to discuss this with the member countries and the governing bodies of the organization. This high-level panel of experts, you have a lot of a broad breadth of expertise there. I was struck when I started to work on the FAO and its governing bodies to realize that the organization, although it's a knowledge-based organization, has no scientific council or place where they make sure that they are properly guided by high-level scientists to make sure that the organization is on the right track. So that may be something that we need to think, but obviously that has to be done with the governing bodies of this organization. But I take the opportunity of this open debate to put these questions on the table.
Thank you very much. Our super moderator is giving me some signals to end up, but I sincerely hope that in the follow-up round, in the open debate, we will be able to also discuss not your priorities, but what you want to deprioritize, because that is needed, and where you want to see the FAO being in 5 years' time, just after your re-election. But I think I have to hand the micro to Per to continue the questioning.
Thank you very much. I'd like to first follow up on Gerda's first question related to the advice to solving country-specific problems. FAO is really well known for all of its global public goods that it produces. All of the statistics that come out, the land tenure guidelines that were done in collaboration with the community, with the Committee on Food Security, and many other things that are relevant for many countries. Then on the other hand, I just heard that you're going to have FAO representation in 130 countries, presumably to solve country-specific problems. Where do you come out on that? You got to somehow, once you're in FAO, to set some priorities. Are you going to try to do global public goods of the kind that nobody else is doing, or are you going to compete with private consulting firms of solving country-specific problems? And I'm not sure who would like to begin, but I would like to hear both of your opinion, if possible.
Well, for me, it's clear. I indicated what are my two main objectives. So, productive food systems, more efficient, more sustainable, adapted to climate change, and create jobs in rural areas to eradicate poverty. So I will focus on this, using, and to do this, to deliver this, to that end, I will use the available tools that the organization has, you know, both the normative as well as the cooperation and the development activities. And I will leverage resources working with investors to make sure that, not that the FAO becomes an investment agency, but that it helps investors to design and implement investment program that helps to develop the value chain in rural areas. So that's the way I see it. And maybe I can take this opportunity to reply very shortly to the last question by Gerda, to say I will deprioritize red tape and bureaucracy.
Per, I know it's not my turn, but I'm just curious about how. How do you deprioritize red tape and bureaucracy?
You empower your managers and you delegate properly your authority, you develop, although of course you maintain reporting and control mechanism, you make sure that you develop result-based management and the culture of result in this organization. There is a lot of talent and expertise in this organization, a lot of commitment from the staff. So if you have good leadership, if you make, you know, clear what are your priorities, your objective, and you develop the culture of result in the organization, you can reduce red tape and bureaucracy. I like to say that I've been working for 30 years in the public sector, in France and at the European level. So I know this is a constant fight you have to do. And I like to do that.
Absolutely. You are absolutely right. That's a problem of FAO, that not only FAO. Sometimes they are acting as a deliverer of global goods. Sometimes they are competing with the private sector in implementing on the ground. I think that to be over. It is private sector's business. FAO can and should delegate this to the private NGOs to implement projects on the ground. And that's what I think is the right decision.
Let me just address quite a different question. Many of the international organizations, when they get a new leader, they go through a period of reform and reorganization, and by the time everything is back to normal, there's a new leader. I'm being slightly facetious here, but not as much as I would like. Are you going to rework FAO once you get in there? And if so, what kind of reforms are you going to put in place? Or are you just going to continue the way it is right now?
Okay, I start on this. it looks like that you took a look on my speech. Of course. And I've been many times coming to organization and living that. And see, what I really appreciate and what I'm going to do here and what I know here, because the most valuable part of the FAO and untapped potential, it is own professional staff. I know many of them personally. I knew many of them, unfortunately not anymore there. Like you correctly mentioned, they've seen many director generals coming and going. They are not probably ever asked to lead. They are asked to follow. And what I'm inclined to do on the very first day, if I go there, as you just commissioned, call from them, to speak with all of them. So they know well what works and what does not. What is better for organization itself to make it proactive, to make it the organization that delivers. It is effective and functional, and people are smiling at the gate when they're coming to the office. This is about staff, because they must be empowered. I already mentioned, I would repeat, to the delegation of power. This is very important thing. That makes people to make quick decisions. Just to authorize a travel, sometimes I was talking to some people, you need 3 weeks to get authorization. It's unbelievable. So this must be quick. The essence and price of the quick decision is utmost. How it's going to happen? You're going to delegate power. As for human factor, I want to repeat also the most important that I value is the human people there. I would be more than glad to meet everyone in their office and speak. I would be more than glad to join them in happy hours if they call me there, and even to go and play football with them outside. That to make it, to build up the team and make ready that when new Director General is coming, there is a team, they respect each other and they welcome that, because it's not to be treated that new one is coming, that old one is, it's bad, it's going. I'm telling you, I'm so glad that the FAO Director-General term is shortened from 7 to 4. This is a health damaging job. If you realize what are you getting to take, how you probably won't get to sleep properly there. So that's why I would love and support this decision, cutting the term down. And I hope that if I run the FAO and I leave after that, the team would be like this to meet the new Director General there. Thank you.
So in addition to cutting some of the waste and some of the red tape, what else are you planning to do once you, if you were to become Director General of FAO? I'm talking about internal changes.
Yeah. But the first thing I will do is, because I trust FAO staff, there is a lot of competence, talent, and commitment in this organization. So what I'll do is, first thing I will do, I will address all staff, present the roadmap, the priorities, the way I'd like to work with them, listen to them, engage with them. I'll ask them to provide, to be mobilized to deliver results, as I said. And obviously, I will empower them. I will look at the way we are working and see how we can make, as I said, the processes more efficient so that we deliver better results. If you're asking me, am I going to change everything or not? I'm not taking this position to change nothing. As I said, I have clear priorities. So there will be change, not for the sake of change, but for delivering results, because the challenges are huge.
Femi, do I have time for one more question?
Yes, you do.
On climate change. We would really like to hear, at least I would like to hear, and I suspect we all like to hear, what do you have in mind for FAO to do about climate change, about adaptation and mitigation, and how do you see yourselves fitting in with all of the many other organizations to deal with climate change? Because obviously FAO can play only a certain role in this. And who's going to take leadership on that? Is this going to be some kind of an overriding UN leadership? Is FAO going to take leadership? How are you going to fit in, and what are you going to do? In a couple of minutes. I know that's an impossible question to answer in 2 minutes, but give us some flair for what you're going to do.
So I'll try to be short. So you need to provide support to government and stakeholders to adapt our food system to climate change. So changing practices, diversifying crops, that's very important so that our systems are more resilient. You need also, because climate change means you're not going to be able to, you will also have to face more extreme weather events. So you need to improve the preparedness to extreme weather events. I'm thinking here about recent events, floods in Iran, hurricane in East Africa. So you need to make sure that the FAO will be more responsive to help, to rebuild the food systems and the ability for the rural community to produce. Then, of course, demonstrate that agriculture, fisheries, and forestry provide solution to climate change. So that means, as you're saying, that there is a leadership role for the FAO here to work, of course, with other UN agency, international organization, but to make its voice maybe to be more vocal on these issues, because I think that when it comes to climate change, we don't sufficiently think and act about agriculture, fisheries, and forestries. And here, the FAO has a role to play.
I had an answer on this, but the last 3 days in Rome makes me to think about that something is wrong with climate change. So it's too cold here, and it's not moving in the right direction for the weather forecast. Just to be serious on this side, there are many actors who contribute to climate change beyond agriculture, and it's not agriculture to be actually blamed on this. But as for standpoint of agriculture and fishery and forestry, here, of course, we have the most important thing, it's the reforestation. It's a green, not only in forests, but also keeping soils green. That lowers emission out. And introducing good agricultural practices, that including zero or low till whenever it's possible, that also lowers the emission of CO outside. Waste management, to be properly targeted. It is also attention to the food systems, but there is one more thing that FAO should do it. FAO should bring this information down to everyone. FAO cannot really force them. It is to be raised upper in the agenda, but believe me, many farmers, many people, they don't know what kind of benefits they can receive if they follow good agricultural practices. And there is even a possibility, it's pretty much untapped possibility, that in case applying the right agricultural farming systems, they can claim also carbon credits for their own country, and could not be additional income, especially for those small countries. They know nothing about this. And that's a motivation for them to do it. This could be explored through the TCP, pretty enough funding just to get the knowledge down and explain to these people. And in case they're concerned, to go further and do it. And that we can have both environmental interest based on awareness and economic interest based on additional income. That's how I think about it.
Thank you very much. Back to Femi.
So this is your 25 minutes, almost half hour, where if you haven't heard what you came here to hear, you can then change the conversation. Excellent. Let's get some microphones into the room. Very good. Will you see a hand? Put a microphone in front of that hand. The gentleman will stand up. Where's the other microphone? Where do we have it? Very good. Good morning. It will be in a second. Keep talking.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Czech Republic, I'm permanent representative here in Rome. Thanks very much for the very open and transparent discussion here. I think it's a very important piece of the puzzle, not just on the official and official level here in the FAO. So the question is quite simple. I heard a lot about food security, nutrition, climate change, etc. I missed a bit on food safety. I think it's one of the most important things. You can't really have whatever food if you just die, if I put it very simply. So could you perhaps more elaborate on that? What you as a new Director General do to have more safe food within the worldwide offshore situation? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that question. You're right. In food security, you have not only, you not only need enough food, nutritious food, healthy food, you need also safe food. That's very important. I was participated a couple of weeks ago in Addis Ababa to the first international conference organized by the African Union, the FAO, and the World Health Organization. And it reminded us rightly how important this is to work here. The way I see the role of the FAO, very important with the activities of Codex Alimentarius, setting standards which help us not only to facilitate trade, that's very important, but also to provide the basis for many countries to develop their own rules to protect their own consumers. That's key, I think. It's not just for exports, it's also for the population to improve their health status. And I see two key points here that we need to strengthen. First of all, the scientific basis for the work of the Codex Alimentarius. That's very important, that we stick to science and evidence to make sure that we are properly protecting our consumers. And secondly, I think we need to help developing countries to strengthen their capacity, to build more capacity, because it's not just about setting standards, it's about having a more effective implementation of these standards and the rules on food safety so that we really protect our consumers.
I really did respect food safety much. From this morning, I do it even more because I've been a victim of unsafe food this morning. So I got an egg in the hotel and I just realized I did something terrible. And why I'm saying this? Codex Alimentarius standards here, we all know. And of course we agree. I don't know anybody who can say that we shouldn't do it. We must make sure that people, especially it was mentioned here in the developing countries, they know what is that about, why we are doing this, why, and help them to understand benefits of this. It should not be hidden burden of somebody to access the market, because these non-tariff barriers, it's so well designed sometimes that nobody gets it. Finally, when you get it, so your trade is jeopardized. We also need to help countries who does not have food safety laws in the place. There is a TCP's role, because I've seen many countries in different corners of the world, especially with extreme right and left, both is bad. So saying we don't need, why we should care about food safety? Let's private sector take care about food safety. And we don't need it. I said, what about if food is not safe? All right, I go to place, I go to restaurant, next morning I won't go there. I said, you may not go there, you die, right? So as a consumer, as a not agriculturist at this moment, I would like assurance when I go to the market or go to supermarket, there is a strict control on the safety. And as for quality, I would happily leave it to the private sector. Private sector could be involved with this, the only thing to be assured the labeling is correct. And it's as a consumer's discretion. I buy white bread or I buy black bread, assuming that both are safe for myself. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fabio Goroni. I work for the Italian news agency ANSA. I would like to pose a question to both candidates about your view and your policy, your future policy, in case you're elected, towards MGOs. Mr. David, you said that the soil is not there to be exploited, but it comes before agriculture even existed. So that is one of your basics. And both of you have stressed on the two sides, that one is in the safety of the environment and the other one is assuring that everyone gets their proper food supply.
Could you make this a question, sir?
Yeah.
Because we're running out of time.
Okay.
We have a lot of people in the
So,
room.
which is your view on GMOs, on genetically modified organisms and agriculture? Thank you.
As I said, I think we know what science and innovation has brought to the food sector, to agriculture. And I think that we will need to continue to rely on science and innovation, all forms of innovation, including biotechnologies. You refer to GMO, we could add gene editing, so any technique would be welcome, provided of course it is safe and it respects the environment. But this is very important that we rely, for example, for resistance to disease, a resistance to a drought. We could make use of this kind of technology, but this is not the only solution. We have many solutions, and in any case, I want this organization to make sure that we will rely on innovation to support the objective that I have presented, in particular to develop more productive systems.
David, GMOs.
Thank you very much for these questions. And I want to tell you that there are, and let's make clear because this is a very interesting topic, two different opinions and call it by its name. There are a group of countries, they said it's good and we go and they do it. And there are a group of countries, they say it's not good, we go and do it. No, don't do it. Both are science-based. Both are science-based. Small countries, many countries, part of FAO, they don't have a capacity and luxury of funding to do such kind of scientific research. So what they rely on the science that we are getting and the evidence. So far, I have not seen any evidence of harming people, and I've seen many people using in many countries that I work, just except some places where they simply don't need it, where they are full with indigenous biodiversity, they don't need it. But they are actively promoting and doing in their country. Also, I've seen reservations. Right in front of me here is a European-based study that says following: GMO-fed rat study triggers furor. It could be. So my point is that I absolutely agree with everyone, it should be science-based. But politics must be gone out of this. And it would be very clearly explained to the farmers, they cannot understand what is that they're gonna be heated or not heated. When it is fairly done, I think there is a path of this to go quickly and further, especially in that places there is no alternative for that. Thank you.
If I may, maybe one need to say, because here we are engaging and having dialogue, maybe we should acknowledge and recognize that there is a debate in the society, in some regions of the world, about the use of this technology. And I think it's important not to deny it. And having led the European Food Safety Authority for 7 years, which is responsible for the risk assessment of GMO, I am well aware of this debate. And I have discussed that many times and often with all key stakeholders. And I think it's important to discuss with them. But never I compromised with science. That's important to say it again. So I think the FAO is also a platform for this kind of dialogue. But while we remain open and discuss and engage and recognize that there may be different point of views, and then it's up also to the government, of course, in the context of the international law to take action. It is important that the FAO would be also a platform where we have discussion about this, like we have discussion on all sorts of subjects and all sorts of innovation. That's important, because this is the forum where we shall debate. And what I want to do, if I am elected, is continue also that the FAO plays this role, for having dialogue. That's important. We cannot deny that there is a dialogue.
So, David and Catherine, hold tight for a moment, because the internet is saying, hello, we're out here and we want to be in the conversation. I acknowledge that, Twitter. Thank you very much. So there is a group called REACT, and then an independent global network for concerted effort on antibiotic resistance. So that's a little bit of background, David and Catherine, so you understand where they're coming from. So talking about AMR in the FAO election, with antibiotic resistance threatening the achievement of many SDGs, including sustainable food production and food security, how will FAO, how will you, if you become the DG, set up its work on AMR under your leadership?
I brought a lot of personal examples to you, and also I can speak about antibiotics, because if not that, you would be looking at a more curly person in front of you with a lot of hairs. I was in army, subject of medical treatments of that period, and I got injected 400 antibiotics in 3 months. It was like 12 a day, so my pillow was completely red. And after that, I was in a normal medical care for 5 years just to survive on this. What I'm telling you is that improper use of antibiotics, it's irresponsible. And the One Health approach that we understand, it's very important to implement it. Every country should lead with national platforms and plans, how to cope with it. But we also need to remember that when Fleming invented antibiotics, that saves the world from the diseases. So, and it's here about dosage, about timing, and about composition. That to be properly used. I know that there is an active work in this direction. I had some interesting meetings while I'm here. I got even more knowledge in this, and I can tell you one more thing that I would like to add. In Georgia, in my country, we have developed alternative. That is one, probably very few positives that we inherited from Soviet Union. This is a phagiotherapy. This is alternative to antibiotics. It has been tested already in few directions: mastitis, ear infection for dogs, and it has been tested also, what is important, in fish hatcheries, and it works. We have this institute, there is a big scientific institute, it has a joint research program with Greece, doing in a Mediterranean environment, and we hope that this is gonna be one of the serious alternatives in the future for using antibiotics. Thank you.
I think that this is one important issue when it comes to delivering health to the world, so in the context in particular of One Health. That's very important, and we know that unresponsible use of antibiotics can contribute to death even, because there are, if I remember correctly, over 700,000 people every year dying from antimicrobial resistance. So that's a very important issue that has been recognized by the member countries. Here, I think we need to have, again, coordinated approach and work between different international organizations, the FAO, the World Health Organization, OIE, work with stakeholders. Efforts have been done to ensure that we promote responsible use of antibiotics, that we build capacity also in countries to implement also proper use of antibiotics. So I think here we have to continue to strengthen our efforts. That's very important for our health.
Hello, thanks for your patience.
I'm a master's student in food law. Biodiversity represents the basis for guaranteeing the food security, but today only 5 multinational corporations control more than 80% of the seed market. And it implies that a loss of about 70% of biodiversity. It means that if we continue to support this economic system, the food that we have on our table will never have, we no longer have energy and nutritional values. And also it means that all the problem related with the patent, the seed patents. So my question is how FAO is going to stop concretely this economic system, these economic rules, which cause enormous damages also against the small farmers. Thank you.
David, you start.
Biodiversity is something that is really very important. And it's not just only word. In my country, we have more than 560 indigenous grape varieties only. Indigenous, it is coming locally. So we have kept all of them. Indigenous biodiversity especially, could be transferred to additional income to the farmers. Whenever you say that it's way more broader issue rather than only seed companies holding that 80% on the market. And I can tell you how. When we spoke about cooperation between agencies, there are two agencies in the world could be attached to this. One is a GEF, especially concerned about this. And in case of wheat, they go to every country and they are helping them with biodiversity like I did when I was a minister. I brought them there and we made a gene bank for every single traditional indigenous species and kept it. And after that, in case you are looking for additional growth in the economy, it's very much possible to speak in parallel with IFC, to ask for assistance and commercialization of those new products from which you can produce something that is very much attractive for the new markets, especially now when the tastes are changed. And we engaged hundreds of farmers in this who've been pretty much successful and enjoying the benefits of this biodiversity, transferring not only as it just preserved biodiversity, but also transferred it to additional income for them, and cultivating absolutely independently their seeds and seedlings. So that's how I see at this moment that FAO should cooperate, at least with those two organizations. Thank you.
Catherine.
So biodiversity is not only just about seeds, but you're right, there is an issue there, but so I'll focus on seeds. Well, I think we need to protect innovation and research, and that what has been built with the system of protection for seeds. So I am not sure that I'm not saying you're suggesting it, but to be clear, I'm going to exaggerate a bit to destroy the regulatory system that has been put in place will help us. We need to continue to incentivize the private sector to develop research and innovation. So I would rather recognize that, as you say, there is now a limited number of crops and varieties which are cultivated over the world, and that was done in a particular context where we were looking mainly at producing more. Maybe now we need to also producing more and better and more diversity, also to address the needs of the population. Maybe we need to look working with the private sector. So again, here it's about engaging and have dialogue. How we can move towards more diversity while, of course, protecting, the research and the innovation that is being brought and developed by the private sector. So I would have a more I would engage on this. I think it's important, as you said, and I would engage dialogue on this issue.
Yes. Thank you very much. My name is Mario Arvelo. I am the ambassador for the Dominican Republic to the Rome-based agencies. I was very impressed by the candidates' presentations to the council yesterday. I'm disappointed, of course, that not all candidates are present here today. That those absent explained to the council why they weren't coming. But I am glad that all four agreed on certain core issues. One is that FAO must continue to support medium and medium-high income countries because we still have to deal with hunger and malnutrition. Also that although standard setting is a core function of the FAO, without a robust technical cooperation program, all standards by Codex and IPPC are useless, are written on air with water, unless, of course, they intend to be used as non-tariff barriers, like both of you said. But I am also here as chair of the Committee on World Food Security, like Gerda mentioned, and as CFS chair, I would like to invite you first to make a pledge, if you are elected, to continue supporting CFS on building on the support that Professor Graziano has given as Director General. I have already secured the support from President Humbo of IFAD and Executive Director Beasley of WFP, who would be your counterparts and colleagues if you are elected, so that I urge you to plead your continued support to CFS if you're elected. Also to take a page from CFS as a multilateral and multi-stakeholder institution, to bring on advice and orientation from the civil society, not just social movements.
Mario, this is very impressive intervention before the FAO DG is actually elected. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I have
because this is a conversation that we can have during lunch on a one-to-one. It feels very unfair to put the candidates on the spot like this. But do ask your question.
This is, I am speaking for the committee, and my constituents want this commitment. And lastly,
your question?
Yes, and yes, please. And lastly, we all know that migration and conflict are both cause and consequence of hunger, and I would like also to seek your views on how will you use the pulpit, so to speak, of FAO Director-General to maintain hunger at the top of the political debate, because one aircraft carrier costs what FAO is expected to receive as core budget from here until 2030. And I know of no parent that neglects feeding their children to buy a gun. So if you could tell me something about that, please. Thank you.
Can be short in my reply. That might help. So on CFS, so thank you, Mario, for this question. On CFS, I think I already addressed that point, saying that this is a unique platform. We need to, I also shared with you some of the thoughts I had in order to see how we can use that more effectively, and use it as a platform where we have more interaction, more dialogue between, key stakeholders and governments, as well as FAO and FAO staff. Secondly, when it comes to migration and conflicts, you're right, this is very important. We know that this is a consequence, these are a consequence of food insecurity, but also cause for food insecurity. As it has recently been reminded us in the context of the report of the Global Network on Food Security. I have, in the context of my campaign, I went to Geneva, where I have discussed with the High Commissariat for Refugees, as well as the International Organization for Migrations. And what I've heard there is that they were making a plea for more work, more cooperation, and active works between the FAO and the humanitarian agencies and organizations. Why is that? Because they are faced, and we are faced with particular situations where you have, for example, in countries where you have many refugees, you need to ensure the food security for these people. There is a lot also of pressure on the environment, on the rural community that welcomes these people, and it's not only always in the most favorite countries, where the conditions are the most favorable. So they were making a plea to see how FAO can help and work more actively so that migrants, refugees also can contribute to rebuild or build productive systems and being more integrated in the local and the local communities. So that's something we might wish to consider and step up.
David, do you have a response?
My full commitment to the role of food security and migration. my role, full commitment to the role of the environment to this. It's not only food, it's also environment. And my full commitment also to that better be prevented rather be busy with rehabilitation. Though sometimes we cannot have the chance for this, especially for natural calamities. I agree with you that many parents are ready to take a gun, and they have taken it already in their hands and using this. We need to spend more time with that to make sure that we are preventing such kind of escalations, where people are living out, getting them assistance. I don't know, I didn't have it left here. Is that one of the important things that is on my brochure is from crisis to development. From crisis to development means how you're going to deal with crisis. That we have dealt it few times, and most importantly during military conflicts. And there is utmost importance to ensure that people are not only fed, but in their own villages, they are back to production, where they can produce again, to be back, a livelihood restored. This is very important. In this case, they are not migrating. What is the reason of migration? So I was thinking to migrate my country in 92, 93, I wanted to move out. That was the reason, because I almost lost hope that there was no chance for me and my family to survive. When one is losing hope, next they are moving to another place. That is all about us. In the future, we must, creating opportunity as FAO, we should give a hope to everyone. And when they are in hope, and when they are treated properly, they continue further their path in a peaceful, and they probably will sell this gun back to somebody else, or destroys it and go back and buy fertilizer and go to deal with their farm. As for Food Security Committee, so I don't know the reason why not to commit or commit. I don't know. Is there anything problems that you think that could be there? Food security is on top of agenda, so that must be always upfront. But I wish that you stay without job very soon, that your committee is cancelled and food security is achieved. Thank you very much.
So, Per and Gerda, Per and Gerda, you came into this conversation having an idea of where we are with the work of FAO and perhaps where we should be heading with the work of FAO. What do you make, just briefly, Gerda, of what you've heard today?
Thank you very much. First of all, I think we have two brave and excellent candidates, because they were available to be in this forum, and they should be recognized for it wholeheartedly. They didn't know the questions, they didn't get our preparations, so they were able to speak from the heart and from their experience. It's hard to compare, because I admire both approaches. Davit was able to talk very much bottom-up from his own experience, experience in country as a Minister of Agriculture, very pragmatic solutions, whereas it is appealing that Catherine is ready to remove red tape. On the how questions, we need to discuss more, because we want to see, but it's hard to tell it from the outside of FAO. When it comes to rethinking agriculture to make it more climate resilient, if you want, or environment or sustainable, and more healthy diets, I think there is work ahead here. But it's not only to be expected from FAO. FAO should be ready and open to work with different partners, but focused on what is happening at country level and focused on solutions that work. It's not about another report, because we have enough reports. It's about adapting what is happening at country level. And I see that both candidates are eager to see where can we come in and play our role, where it comes to the connection between humanitarian support and building resilience. I think the way Davit put it, the focus on rebuilding the livelihood so that people can build their own future, and then not only their own future but also the future of their children. That was emphasized by both is an excellent one. More questions to ask, much more questions to ask, a little bit deeper from time to time. But I mean, a few months before the elections, this is already a very good, event and a very good opportunity to praise both candidates. I have one personal fact. I was quite often tempted to raise my finger and ask for the floor, but that was not my role today. But thank you very much. You did great. We can do after this.
Per? Like the candidates, you had no idea what the conversation might be or where it might go. What did you make of it?
Thank you very much. Really interesting and very comprehensive debate. I'm not going to make comparisons between the two candidates, but rather talk a little bit about what I think they both agree on. I have a couple of organizational issues that I think they all agree on. Less centralization of FAO, more delegation within FAO, better leadership to put agriculture and the food system on top of the international agenda, and a more open FAO. I hope that I heard the two candidates correctly, that they're both pushing for that. Secondly, more and more effective collaboration with other organizations, be they regional, national, or international. Again, this is an area where FAO could really benefit from, let me just call that more enlightenment. Now, on some of the substantive, some of the programmatic questions, what I heard the two candidates say is we want a focus on the whole food system, or if you like, value chain, not just agriculture. But I also heard that agriculture is very important, and I am worried as to what that means. Are we going to continue to have an FAO that is really agriculture with a little bit of other things, or are we truly going to have an FAO that is going to be food, agriculture, and nutrition linking with health? And I hope both candidates are going to push the organization in that direction. And of course, all of that has to be cast within a framework of sustainability, goes without saying. Climate change, yes, both of them obviously are convinced that that's an important issue. We didn't have enough time to get into exactly what FAO would be doing. I want to finally make one point on the antimicrobial resistance that was mentioned. If we are forward-looking, we have to pay a lot of attention to those current challenges that, if they are not resolved, are going to result in irreversible future consequences. And it may well be that at this time, antimicrobial resistance is not at the top of our list, but now is the time to act. So I'm glad that that came up on the internet, and I hope that the candidates would take that very seriously. Fortunately, there is a new center, a new institute being created, an international center to try to deal with that, and hopefully that will get support from FAO and others. Finally, if we are to take the Sustainable Development Goals seriously, it's not just talk. If we take them seriously, all of us have something to contribute. It is not just FAO, because the current trend, the recent and current trend, is not going to get us where we want to be. So we all have to do something different to change that trend. And among other things, that means all of us in the world have to eat a healthy diet. And we got a very long way to go in that. Thank you very much for including me in this.
Show me where all the other questions are in the room. Put your hand up. Wow, fantastic. We are going to have lunch together, and you're going to have a one-to-one conversations with the candidates, which is even better than doing it in public. Yes, even better. I want to tell you that this discussion couldn't have been possible without the Italian Institute for International Political Studies and, of course, Chatham House. I want to end, David, come back to your microphone just for one moment, with a question. with a question. I don't want the last voice you hear in this session to be my voice. It should be the candidate's voice. So Miss B on Twitter asked something very simple. And candidates, I'm going to ask you to reply very simply, and then the audience will applaud, and then go back to where they had coffee and have lunch with you all, so that the last two voices they hear, hopefully, if this works out, will be your two voices. So Miss B on Twitter says, why are the participants running?
That's an excellent question, but before they answer it, could we ask ISPI and Chatham House much thanks to organize this in an annual basis, because it's so refreshing to have the back and forth and have an open debate with whoever will be the next director of FAO.
Gerda, any other thoughts? All right. Many thoughts. All right. Let's see if this will work out. Why are you running? In a nutshell.
I am running because I think we can and we will deliver sustainable food for all and create jobs in rural areas. And I think the FAO has a decisive role to play in delivering that agenda.
I would answer also with pleasure, but just one question. Do you know who is asking this question? Was they watching us or just joined us? Because it's really very bad if they're watching us from the beginning and asking this question. I feel that I should drop my campaign and go home. So.
They're following on Twitter, on social media.
But are they watching? Because this is obvious that we are running here all, and that's very interesting. We are competing with each other like somebody thinks here. We are just trying to make solution for this complicated puzzle that is here. That for somebody is a divide, and I saw this week in FAO different groups running just for that to make their position up front. It's not about that what is really right and what is working. This or that. Instead of saying maybe we just sit together and speak about. So I'm here just to bring a reconciliation, to make people happy people, because you must be full with food, but maybe not happy. Here is a happiness, number one. And of course, this is a substituent. Full happy, good diet like our colleague is here and we discuss it with him. This is important. And we will try our efforts. And I hope that we together, because alone so we cannot manage it, we together can go there. We can accelerate not only agriculture, but fishery, forestry. We can go to a right environment, and we're going to empower food and create right opportunity for everyone in this world. That's what I dreamed. I hope we're going to make it. So thank you.
Thank you for being part of this conversation. If you're on social media, if you're in the room, please thank the candidates.